I'm Michael Stephen Levinson, and I approve this message. Paid for by Levinson for President, authorized by Michael Stephen Levinson. Good. Hi, I'm Michael Stephen Levinson, independent, write-in candidate for President of the United States. This is my first television informational speech that I'm playing right now. What distinguishes my campaign from all the other candidates, whoever they may be, is that I bring to the table a vehicle for world peace. The other candidates are not talking world peace. I'm talking world peace. Here's a book. The Book of Lev It a Kiss from the House of David Press. This is a television scripture. This is a work of art that was lettered in design. It's all hand lettered in double columns. See? See the columns? See? And this was written down for purposes of performing on worldwide television for all the world's peoples to participate in together all at once. So my plan as president is to rustle all the nations and all the peoples together to listen to my work of art from dusk until dawn, like old blind Homer, every line a delicate, sensible rhyme, running and punning in every spoken tongue. So whatever country you're from, you're going to hear some of your old words. The only issue is my work of art, my inspired work of prophetic art, with a couple dozen world events hand-lettered and written down in advance. Is my work of art fun to listen to? That's the question. Because in the event my work of art wasn't any fun, then you wouldn't want to listen. So let's have a look. See the page? Bring it in there. One day, God's son was standing around, got punched in the side, cried, "Wah!" Turned round, she said, "Hiya, my name is Ka. Thay, what is yours?" He say id ad man. She said, even. God said, ad man, Ka's cut from your rib. She's your mate to kid. But stay off her head. Don't jump on the little kid's head. Ad man obeyed cause. God was his dad. God was his dad. Even stood spread as N.I. girl and gave Ad Man a love L.I. kiss. Ad Man and Even were love L.E. kids. They played ing all day long wherever they could find. They played on the edge of a river in Edom. Ad said, "Cat, let's go in the water." Cat said, "All right, but not overhead." The river in Garden was shallow and fresh. There they went pish, and they didn't splash. Adman and Even loved each other. When God turned over night, God said, "Sleep tight," and Adman and Even slept side by side. One day, old Puff Adder, slimiest snake, slithered right in the garden of God. Puff hissed, "Hello, Adman. I am your friend." Puff even acted like Adman's friend. He wrapped around then around Even's leg. One day Adman said, "I think I will," first think, "I think I will," ill as in will, "I think I will take a walk and see what's shaking round garden." Even said, "No, don't go. Alone, and I am uneven." But he went. Puff slithered by and said, "Hello, Eve, give me your eye," and led Kathleen on the tree of no ledge Puff rapped on a branch. This is the tree of no ledge up here. Skids on the ledge are lines of worry. Puff rapped on a branch and said, even all the food in garden is for eating. That rang a bell. She'd play at ing all day long. Kath plucked a green app, L off of tree, took a bite and spit it out. It was bitter. She said, Puff, you give me a bum steer. He said, don't tread on me. She stepped on him, and he bit her. Just then, Adman returned, loaded with goods, loaded with goods. Food of the ground, fallen of trees. Ad spotted Ka's bite, dropped the fruit, and sucked at her spot. Puff at her, the snake. That's where he bit her. Ka told Ad about app. Adman gulped and forgot to spit. It was poison. Adman slapped even. What did you do that for? That's the tree of no ledge. It belongs to God. Even spit on Adman. Good to get even. Then slap, slap, so more blood came from her maiden head. And it hurt. And then it felt so good. Short lay Adman Finn, isht mish in. Kath he cried, Michael, you just a man. Adman said, I am not woman. I am Adman. I am bad man. Even felt bed. Urin said, Ad, let's do it again. Adman said, nope, not a chance. I'm out of breath. God's gone on a trip. That's 3. I gotta rest. What do we call it? Even said, I name. Adman said, my game. Even said, my turn to name. Adman said, love. Even said, bleep. Adman said, shh. They both went fishing and slept. When they woke, Adman spotted blood all over his staff, and even blood caked in Even's fleece, and said, this is wrong. Blood belongs inside. We are in trouble. Even said, let's get leaves and rub it off. Adman said, God is back in garden. Even said, let's play hiding on God. And they jumped in a brush. God said, I didn't tell you to do that. You're an experiment. Three's a crowd. Now out of my house. And a great wind blew the garden down. They hit the road and covered themselves because it was cold. Adman turned around and gave God the finger. He who would bathe his head with vine, agar has none. And the wind blew harder. Adman turned round again and said, God, you are base turd, the sweeper. You have no father, but you were my father. You blew your breath in me, and I love you. And God was merce. If all he said go and pop, you late the earth, live off the land, and stay on the ground. When you grow old, your soul, the gray ghost, will go to my heaven, the clouds. And that, my fellow Americans, is the story of Adman and Even, where I start. So from dusk until dawn, I begin with Adman and Even, trace the generations of men, explain how the Cheyenne easy people became yellow-skinned, what happened when Moses went up to the big sigh on Mount Sinai, all the ancient stories retold with real living characters, so that we begin world peace with a peaceful night, with all the world's peoples doing the same thing at the same time, watching the big TV show. That's my plan. That's my international plan as president. So my choice for Secretary of State is Thomas L. Friedman of the New York Times, the foreign correspondent writer, because he knows, he's a Pulitzer Prize winner too. He knows everybody all over the world. So he's the guy to be Secretary of State without portfolio, to go around to all the countries, to get them to officially tune in. So that's my international program as President of the United States. As a private citizen, to arrange a worldwide TV show, can't do it. President of the United States, I can. So that's what separates me from the rest, that I carry a work of art up here that I can recite from cover to cover like old blind Homer and begin my vehicle for world peace, create the first peaceful night in 5,000 years of recorded history. Okay. To you, you're interested in other factors, like jobs. There aren't any jobs. People are losing their houses, and we have a lot of economic problems. We solve our economic problems, and we lead the world. My program as president is to instigate the building of 10,000 hybrid clipper ships to carry all of our cargoes worldwide. We import more than any other country. We export more than any other country. So let these imports and exports go on our ships. So I want to have shipyards all over the up and down the Great Lakes, the East Coast, the West Coast, the Gulf Coast. 500 shipyards, all connected to universities, because college students will work on the ships and get their undergraduate education. The sails will be solar voltaic. They'll make electricity so that they'll be able to run semi-automatic winches to raise and lower the sails, and to also turn the screws when they're in a harbor so they can move around, and to have air conditioning and access to the internet, so the students will pay tuition to be on the ships and get their undergraduate education. Because moving the sails and rotating the masts, we can rotate the masts so we won't miss any gust. All of this can be done from the wheelhouse. So college students will be the crew. They'll pay tuition. In paying tuition, with or without a cargo, the ships are making money, and they'll pay for their building carrying cargo. So Harvard could have a fleet of 40 ships, and that would free up 1,600 more seats on the land. This is a good idea. So we can build clipper ships to carry all of our cargoes everywhere. There is in the Pacific Ocean a chunk of ocean the size of Texas, and all of the plastic and garbage that floats on the seatop is there. It's so thick that there isn't any way for animals to come to the surface and actually get to breathe. The whales can do it, and the dolphins, but it's a difficulty. So, because it's so thick with garbage, so mammals of the sea try to stay away from it, and it's there, and we have to clean it. So our clipper ships can go there, and the students can go down to the seatop in longboats and start gathering up all of this. It's the size of Texas, and bring all the stuff on the ship, so that and then bring it to shore, and we'll do something with it, and compress it, and do all of this stuff, and all the countries will pay for this, because we'll be cleaning up a major chunk of the planet that needs to get cleaned. So my jobs program, to create a couple million jobs, one of my jobs programs is to build clipper ships wherever there's water and people need work. So this is one of my ideas. You support my candidacy, and what you get from me, two things. One thing you get is a digital copy of the television scripture. Now, I'm making my letters, my hand letters, into a font, and then I'm going to hand re-letter the whole book, and it'll be in digital, so that you'll be able to, from me, get the access to download it onto your cell phone, onto your desktop, so you'll have a digital copy. That's from me to you. This is the first television rent-a-book. It's not for sale. When it shows up in hardcovers in the stores, you'll pay what the store asks, but you're not purchasing this book. I'm not for sale. This is a work of art that was given to me. It comes from God. That's how I managed to write down 12 or 24 world events in advance, because it was given to me to write them down. It wasn't any predictions. You want to see something? 1971. Here, let me show you something real fast here. I really want to talk about all the issues that are facing us. Can you see this? All this carbon ma? Is that what it said? All this carbon ma? Is that? And do I have it right here? Where is it? Oh, it's right here where my finger is. Okay. All this carbon ma? Monoxide in the air? Brother, you ain't got athlete's feet? You roasting. Polar ice cap's gonna melt and you gonna get a steam bath. That's copyright 1971. I was writing this and I asked some students, I says, am I talking about carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide, the stuff that comes out of the cars? Kid says, I think you want carbon monoxide. The oxides, we have to eliminate them. I have an idea how we do this. It's a worldwide program, but there's a way to absorb all of this billions of extra pounds of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, in all these oxides in the atmosphere, and trap them in such a way so that they aren't going to harm us. Otherwise, we're looking at hundreds and hundreds of bitter years on this planet. So we have to do something about it. As a people worldwide, we can do something about it, and it's not going to hurt anybody. It's good for our ecology and good for our economy. But that's a whole other issue. So I talked to you about hybrid clipper ships, the sail solar voltaic, and everything that goes into building a ship. There's a lot that goes into building a ship. You stop and think about that. So there's going to be jobs all over the country. Another of my jobs, and we could start this tomorrow morning, but it's my idea. And because it's my idea, the so-called anointed leaders of the parties, they're not going to even if it were up to them, you couldn't even get to hear me deliver a speech. Or if there's some way they can stop me from speaking, they'll do that. They don't believe in the Constitution of the United States, not for a heartbeat. They only believe in themselves and feeding at the public trough. What we can do is turn every house in America into an energy incubator. The shingles can be, every house can be reshingled with solar voltaic shingles, so when the sun is shining, the shingles are producing electricity. Every rooftop can have a panel for heating water, so you could have a 200-gallon tank in the basement with steaming hot water. And wind turbines attached to the peak of the roof with a solar unit attached to the wind turbine. So on a sunny day when there isn't any breeze, the solar unit attached to the wind turbine is making electricity and turning the turbine and making electricity that's being stored in batteries in the basement, while the sun is shining on the rooftop and making more electricity. So the husband and the wife are at work and the kids are at school and the house is making more electricity than it uses. Your electric bill, say it's $300 a month. But with these measures, your electric bill is $75 a month. So we can apply the $200 you're saving, $225 you're saving, to the loan against the property for making your house into an energy incubator. Why aren't we doing this? Because every town and city has regulations that don't allow you to have a windmill within the city limits unless you got at least 2 acres or something like that. Now, why did they pass these regulations and ordinances? Because lobbyists, perhaps representing the power company, went around to these towns and cities and, donations to campaigns and all of that, and got these regulations so you can't have a windmill within the city limits. Don't you think for a minute that the President of the United States, me, with one executive order can change all of that? The President could change all of that. It's all about money and power. The people with the money, they own the power companies, and what do they want to do? They want to keep selling you the power every month. What was that guy's name? A billionaire, Boone Pickens. He had a huge thing of windmills out in the country somewhere, and on the wholesale level, he felt that he really couldn't compete with the cost of natural gas. Why isn't he wanting to have a windmill in every house? And because he wants to sell that power to the power company. And then they turn around and sell it to you. But you can be your own power company. Your house, your roof can be solar voltaic, and the unit for heating all the hot water, and the little windmill on your house turning and making electricity, so that, and you can have insulation in the walls and everything else, and the power company can underwrite the loan against the property to do these measures. Every home remodeling company in the country will be hiring workers, hiring people to go out to the houses and audit and see what we can do, that we can do all of these measures. Workers to re-roof the houses. Workers to install the units for the heating the hot water, and everything else involved. And the companies will spring up to be making wind turbines in America because we're here. So that's what we can be doing. Between the ships, the hybrid clipper ships that will sail 20 knots and there'll be fleets. We'll have 10,000 of them. Another thing about these clipper ships is that the students, when they get to some third world country, they go ashore and they can seek out the poorest peoples who make things by hand that are super beautiful. And then they can come back and compare notes with everybody on the ship. And then the captain can issue them American money, 5s, 10s, 20s, and they can go ashore, 1s, 5s, and 10s, maybe some 20s, and go back ashore and go and purchase all sorts of handmade goods made by people. They can pay $1 and get an $80 wicker chair and all kinds of stuff like that and bring it back to the ship. And then they have part of the cargo hold for the return trip. And then that stuff that they brought, that they purchased, gets sold on the docks. And the kids who worked on the ship, they get a portion of that because they went and did all the work bringing the stuff back to the ship. So this enriches third world countries, the poorest peoples, with American dollars, and it's microeconomics, and it's a very good idea. So between my clipper shipbuilding program, which we could start tomorrow morning, and my home energy incubator program, we're talking about 3 million jobs, at least 3 million jobs, more than 3 million jobs. We could be doing that tomorrow morning, but we aren't. So that's my jobs, a couple of my jobs programs. You support my candidacy, you get a copy of the Book of Lev, It a Kiss, the television scripture, lettered in design to perform on worldwide television for all the world's peoples to participate in together all at once. And every time I make another one of these programs, I'm going to show you another prophetic page. I'm going to show you the description of Richard Nixon leaving the White House in shame in 1974, copyright 1971. I'm going to show you the Persian Gulf War, the year it was supposed to happen, where it was going to happen, who would do the fighting, and how it was going to turn out. I'm going to show you Spiro Agnew being a tragic hero over money and going to jail, and Governor Wallace getting a shot in the back. All of these events were all carefully hand-lettered in advance in the Book of Leviticus. So I bring to the table a prophetic work of art, and you're going to get a copy. I only ask that you support my candidacy. How much should you support my candidacy? $2. $2 is good. More is better, of course. But if 2 million people come up with $2, and then I make nationwide speeches in the fall. One 90-minute speech, and it's over for all of them. But there's other issues I'm going to raise about how I'm going to raise money. Of course, I won't look for more than $2, but $2 is fine. $2 is fine. You who never gave a penny to anyone, you can handle $2. Okay, so I've told you about the clipper ships and the energy incubator. We need drug reform. We need big-time drug reform. I think I'm going to be running out of time in a second. I might have to reset my camera. I'm doing all of this myself with my own video motion, high-definition camera. We need drug reform in this country, big time. We have thousands of people in jail from doing what? Smoking a plant. The drug war is not a war against drugs, it's a war against people. So by executive order, all of that is going to change the first day I take office. That all marijuana use is medicinal. When someone wants to, they say, oh, it's recreation medicinal. Some people use marijuana because they have muscular dystrophy, and this eliminates the pain. That's true. And some people have anxiety, and they smoke a little marijuana, and the anxiety is relieved. And they have stress. And so some people come home, they're stressed out, they drink a couple beers. People have stress, they smoke a little marijuana. They don't feel so much stress anymore. This is medicinal. And if they can't get marijuana, it doesn't mean they go and do something else or take some painkiller because they have stress or anxiety. No. So marijuana is a plant that grows in the ground. How can a plant that grows in the ground be illegal? It is against God's law to breed bad men amongst themselves in cages. Those who support that will find out that life is just a snap, and in the hereafter you'll spend 500 years in a toilet trapped because you wanted to trap people in jail for smoking a plant. By executive order, that all changes the first day I take office. That saves the taxpayer $50 billion over the whole country. Because every time they throw some kid in jail for having a $5 worth of marijuana in his pocket, and he gets a year or 2 years in jail, it's $50,000 a head or $45,000 per person to lock someone up and keep them in jail. Can we afford this? I cannot believe that we can afford this. We cannot afford to do this, and we shouldn't. So there's all over the country, there's little things that need to be fixed. My program, I'm going to educate these kids that end up going to jail. And I'm going to see to it that they get out every day on a work program, and they end up with, it'll be $10 an hour. And I'm going to rebuild 1,000 bridges over the River Kwai. And the state, the federal government will get $2.50 in taxes and money to the Social Security. And the state where they are, they'll get $5 an hour from every kid's pay to bring them out to do some work, rebuilding a little bridge, or some plumbing job, or whatever it is, jobs that are too small for these giant companies, but that we could easily handle with kids that are in jail. And at night they're going to have to study and learn. So they'll end up with $2.50. $2.50 over a 40-hour week. It sounds like a little money. So that goes into a bank account so that the kid gets out of jail. Not right away, but maybe a year or a year and a half or 2 years later, he's getting out of jail. There's $10,000 in the bank. So he gets back with the little kid that he left behind, and the girl that he left behind, and he's got self-esteem, self-respect, and he can go to work in one of my shipyards or somewhere else. But there's all these little infrastructure jobs that these giant construction companies don't want any part of, that we can fix, and we can use these kids in jail to do it. Because they're all going to get out of jail. So that's my program relative to drug reform. I also have to explain about heroin and Afghanistan. What's going on in Afghanistan, the whole key in Afghanistan is the opium poppy. And who controls the opium poppy wins. And what we should be doing is digging giant foxholes and underground rooms and motion sensors and lots of other stuff, and occupying the opium fields and paying the farmers for the whole crop cash in advance. At a certain point, the Taliban has to come out and attack us. Instead of us riding around in trucks and getting our heads blown off all the time from devices that they set off from 100 yards away with a clicker for a remote TV or something, they'll have to come across the fields and attack us to get rid of us, to get that opium. Because without that opium, the Taliban is nothing. They have nothing. That's their income. It's billions of dollars. 93% of the world's heroin comes from Afghanistan, the opium distilled into heroin. We control that opium, and all of these cartels don't have opium to sell anymore, don't have heroin to sell. All over America, there's people from South America, and they're developing dealerships of people working for them to be nonviolent. You go into a poor neighborhood, you see a stop-and-go place, and standing 5 feet from the door is someone leaning against the wall. And in one pocket they have cocaine, in the other pocket they have little bags of heroin, and they're dealing. And the deal is not to fight over the territory. And that's what's going on. And this is all over the country. That's why there's thousands of people dying south of the border, because the heroin from Afghanistan comes by boat and by plane to Colombia. It's repackaged to look like it's from South America. It gets smuggled up to Mexico. Then the Mexican cartels take over, and they're fighting each other for who gets to distribute the heroin and the cocaine to the dealers that are all over the whole country. So they said they get it across the border, and then someone delivers it, and they get paid in cash from the dealers. So that that's what's going on. It's all over our country. So when we occupy the opium fields in Afghanistan, we dry up that whole deal. That's why the Russians were supporting us in Afghanistan, because some of that heroin goes to Russia, the rest of it goes to Western Europe, but the bulk of it goes to South America and is then smuggled into the United States. We need to stop this. And the first segment of my half-hour speech is coming to an end, it looks like. Let me see. So what else can I cover you? Well, I'm going to come back in a minute or two, and I'm going to talk about mortgages and healthcare and my Uncle Sam Shazam program and some other hot buttons. So in un momento, be right back.